This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and it's become my second camera. It's been helping me shoot my YouTube videos, it's been helping me shoot B-roll, and it's even been making it into a client project or two, but we'll keep that between you and I. All in all, the video coming out of this phone is incredibly good. It's more or less though, however, exactly the same looking as the iPhone 15 Pro, so keep that in mind. But today I want to walk you through the exact settings that I've been using to shoot incredibly good video on my phone. At the end of this video, I'm also going to walk you through exactly how I color grade the video coming out of my iPhone 16 Pro Max. Spoiler alert for that, we will be shooting in ProRes Log, so I want to walk you through my entire color grading workflow for that as well. But with that all out of the way, let's dive into the camera settings so you can start taking some of the best looking video out of your phone possible. All right, so here we are inside of my iPhone 16 Pro Max. We're in the settings app and we're gonna make our way down to the camera settings. Open that up, we're jumping over system settings, we're jumping over app settings and straight into record video. I record all of my video at 4K 30 FPS. I wanna be shooting at 4K for the highest resolution, and I wanna be shooting at 30 FPS for two reasons. One, it's really good in low light. If you're shooting at 60 or 120 FPS, you will be getting worse low light performance. So at 30 FPS, my phone doesn't have to crank the ISO and increase it like crazy when things get dark because I'm not shooting at a crazy frame rate. 30 FPS for me is where it is at. And it also gives me the flexibility to slow it down to 80%, giving it a little bit more of a cinematic feeling vibe. If you just want to film video and you have no intention of slowing it down whatsoever, 4K 24 FPS is where it's at. And if you want to slow it to half speed, 4K 60 FPS. And if you want to slow it to quarter speed, you want to be shooting at 4K 120 FPS. Now, I'm also going to scroll down here and make sure enhanced stabilization is turned on. I'm a huge fan of stable clips. I am not a fan of shaky clips whatsoever. So the iPhone stabilization, and I'll show you a really cool trick when we dive into the camera app and I walk you through exactly how to shoot the video as well. But the stabilization on the iPhone is incredibly cool. So I make sure that is turned on. I've got action mode in lower light turned off. If things are too dark, I don't want the iPhone over-processing my video, so I'm gonna leave that off. HDR video, absolutely not a fan of this. Auto FPS is something that I kind of touched on before. Instead, I'm manually setting my frame rate to 30 FPS, and I do not want my iPhone automatically changing that without me knowing. And then the last two settings, I have lock camera off and lock white balance on. Lock camera off, having it off like I do, means that when I'm recording video, maybe it's for an Instagram story or maybe it's just for something fun, I can just quickly zoom in and maybe I'm not too worried about the quality of the video. This wouldn't allow me to do that and use the other cameras on the back of the camera, or on the back of the phone, I should say. It's more or less a camera at this point though. So I've got that turned off, and then lock white balance, I have that turned on. This is so the white balance isn't changing in the middle of my clip while I'm recording. When I stop and then restart filming again, it can reset the white balance and change it to something else. But as long as I'm recording video on my phone, the white balance is going to stay the same, which is nice. All right, so that is all the record video settings out of the way. Let's make our way down to slow-mo. If you want the absolute best of the best, 4K 120 FPS is where it is at. 1080p at 240 FPS is going to give you the slowest speed possible, but for me, I hardly shoot slow-mo anyway, to be honest with you. But when I do 4K 120 FPS, it's going to be looking sick, but the file sizes are going to be massive. All right, with slow-mo out of the way, let's back out and then make our way into formats. Just a quick side note, I don't shoot any cinematic video on here, but if you do want the best cinematic video, make sure it's at 4K 30 FPS if you potentially want to slow it down, or 4K 24 FPS if you have no plans of slowing it down whatsoever. All right, now we can get into formats. All right, kicking things off with camera capture at the top, we've got high efficiency or most compatible. Now, I'll be honest with you, I actually sort of just a little bit, and when I mean a little bit, I mean like 0.1% of a difference. Notice most compatible looking just a little bit better. However, I do find the photo quality in high efficiency better, so it's kind of a bit of a juggling act. I just leave things at high efficiency because I don't want to have to think about every time I either switch between photo or video mode, I need to come into the settings and change the format. That's just not happening. So I would suggest to you to just leave this on high efficiency and be done with it. All right, moving over photo capture and ProRes resolution control. If you want to go check out the best photo settings you can have on your iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, I've got a complete video already up on my YouTube channel. You can find it somewhere in the cards here. And now we can move on to video capture. Now, Just a quick little disclaimer. I don't shoot everything in ProRes Log, and I highly suggest you don't as well. Even if you have 100 terabytes of iCloud storage and the 1 terabyte iPhone, I just don't recommend it. The file sizes are massive, it's a little bit clunky to work with, and it's just not efficient. However, from time to time when I'm shooting a little bit more of a serious clip, or when I'm shooting a clip that I know needs to go somewhere, fit into a high-end YouTube video or a client job, I will make sure I'm shooting in Apple ProRes Log. And that is for a few reasons. One, I get to play around with the colors so much more. The footage looks way nicer, and overall I can match the colors and contrast of a more professional camera, at least a little bit more than I could if I was just shooting in the standard picture profile. So with that being said, I always want to make sure I have ProRes enabled and then ProRes encoding set to log. You can change this when it comes to actually shooting in the camera app. You can easily toggle it on and off. So I just make sure I have it enabled so I can toggle it on and off, and then I'm good to go. All right, with formats out of the way, let's quickly just run through a handful of other settings. Preserve settings, I pretty much have everything turned on here. When it comes to the video settings, I've got photographic style turned off and then pretty much everything else turned on. This is just so when I leave my camera app, nothing gets reset, and then when I open it back up, everything is how I left off. I hate having to go back and change all this camera settings to make sure they were exactly how I was just shooting if my phone locks for some reason, or I've got to quickly, take a break, come back to it, and then yeah, I'd rather just have preserve settings turned on. It saves me a load of time and a load of headache. Then coming into composition, I make sure grid and level are enabled. This is a little bit self-explanatory. The level obviously just makes sure that your camera is level and you're not shooting video like this unless you want to. And the grid is also just there to help you out with better composing your shots, being able to find the center of the shot a little easier, and being able to play with the rule of thirds. And then just for good housekeeping, I've got lens control and macro control turned on. And when it comes to settings, we are now done. Let's now jump over into the camera app, where I'm going to run you through a handful of techniques and ways that you can make sure you're taking the best footage possible. So let's get into it. All right, so here we are inside of the camera app. And if this is the first time you've ever gone into your camera settings, changed a load of things around, there are a few extra little buttons on the screen, but we'll get to those in just a minute. There are 5 things I want to run you through when it comes to shooting really good video on your iPhone. So let's dive in. First on the list is only shooting with the lenses that are on the back of your phone. What do I mean by that? Because Zach, what else would I shoot through? Well, what I mean by that is only shooting at the 0.5 times, the 1 times, and the 5 times focal lengths that you can see on screen here. The 2x focal length is purely just a crop in on the 1 times camera. Because the megapixel count is so high, it still allows you to shoot in 4K. From time to time, I find myself shooting at the 2x lens, but I try and avoid it as much as possible. It is hard though, as the 2x lens is like the 50mm equivalent look, and 50mm just happens to be my favorite focal length. Either way, the idea here is you just don't want to zoom in between these lenses. So let's say, for example, we've got the 1 times lens here, we can punch into the 2x, and let's say I really liked like 2.8x for some reason. This is only just digitally zooming in. You're not getting some optical quality. There's no zoom lens on the back of your camera. You're just digitally zooming in, and I would highly recommend to not do that. It's gonna hurt image quality, it's gonna hurt resolution, and overall, it's just not going to look that nice. Next up on the list is to make sure that you are shooting a little bit underexposed only when you're not shooting in log. What do I mean by that? Well, I find that a lot of the time, my iPhone footage is too bright, just ever so slightly too bright. So instead of me having to put my footage into, let's say, Premiere Pro to color grade it to get it back to looking really nice, all I want to do is underexpose my footage just a little bit. There are 2 ways you can do that. One way is the manual way. You can do it every single time. So you tap on your subject and then you can just drop the little sun. And you can see by dropping this, things are already looking a little bit nicer. The light isn't set up for this little scene of this camera here, but you get the idea. Just dropping the exposure can really clean up your shadows and make things look a little bit more contrasty. Or you can do it the way which is a little bit more permanent, which is coming up to the top left-hand corner here, and then just dropping the preset exposure. And when I close that by tapping on the little meter up there, it's now set to minus 0.7 until I go ahead and change that. So I don't need to tap on the screen and then, decrease or increase it from there. It's always going to be set to minus 0.7. All right, so let's now move on to shooting in log, because one of the most important aspects when it comes to shooting in log is overexposing your footage. However, you don't need to do this on your iPhone. All you want to make sure is that your exposure is set to 0, and then come into the top left-hand corner where you can see ProRes Log. You want to make sure that that's enabled. And now you'll be shooting with correctly exposed ProRes Log footage. And just a little bit of a tip for you, and a reason as to why I don't suggest everyone shoots in ProRes Log all of the time. As you can see, I've got 5 minutes of recording time left. Now, I have been shooting a lot of ProRes Log on my phone, but that is insane. The file sizes are giant, so tread carefully, tread lightly, and don't just, do a time lapse in log on your phone for like an hour, because unless you're shooting to an external SSD, that is just going to eat up storage like crazy. All right, and last but not least, I want to share with you my favorite tip when it comes to shooting video on your iPhone, and that is to use, let's turn log off, action mode. I use action mode a lot. And right now it looks horrible because it's quite a dark scene, and as you can see, it even says more light required. But when you're out and about, when you're shooting, action mode turns your hands and legs into a gimbal. It's incredible. I was on a safari last year and I got some shots from the side of the car that we were bumping on a road like this, and they looked like it was shot on a drone. I've got other shots where I'm just putting action mode on, holding the camera like this and walking forward, and it looks like I'm on a gimbal. It is incredible. So make sure if you're doing any kind of big movements whatsoever, put action mode on, see how you go, and you can take it from there. The only downside is that it punches in quite a lot digitally. So the 1x now looks a little bit more like 2x. And of course, you can't shoot in 4K, so you can only shoot in 2.8K. A little bit of a downside, however, it's not the end of the world, at least in my opinion. All right, and also just on the top of 2.8K, a little bonus tip for you is that you can change your resolution and your frame rate inside of your phone, inside of the camera app. Of course, you can change it inside your phone. But all you want to do is tap on the 4K, and then you can also tap on the 30, 60, 120, 24. And this way you can go in there and make sure that you can dial in your resolution and your frame rate and change it quickly, instead of having to go back into the settings app, into your video settings, and so on and so forth. This way, it's just nice, easy, and quick. If you're shooting a really long clip and you don't need it to be in 4K, maybe you can just flick it over to HD. Or if you want to shoot some slow-mo or some half-speed stuff, you can quickly switch over to 60 frames per second and be done with it. All right, so with all of that out of the way, we're now going to dive into Premiere Pro, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can color grade your ProRes Log footage. Let's dive in. All right, so here we are inside of Premiere Pro. This is the clip we're going to be color grading. This was shot in Hong Kong on my iPhone 16 Pro Max with action mode enabled, so it's only 2.8K. Let's just quickly see how smooth that is watching it back. My goodness, action mode is awesome. I was pretty shaky shooting this. Not too shaky, but like action mode just smooths all of that out. Anyway, moving on. We're going to be color grading this clip. As you can see, it's extremely flat. There's not much color going on. There's really not much contrast going on. So we're going to add all of that back into this shot within a matter of a few clicks. Now, I will be using my Apple ProRes conversion LUTs. You can check them out in the description down below. They're $5 for a pack of 10. So let's open up our basic correction tab here inside of the Lumetri color tab. Of course, we're in Premiere Pro. You can do the pretty much exact same workflow inside of Final Cut, inside of DaVinci. It's just a little bit different. The LUTs work everywhere, and the overall color grading idea and principles also work as well. So let's open up our input LUT here, hit custom, and I've already got my iPhone ProRes conversion LUTs right here. Let's just cycle through a few of these. We've got number 10, start from the bottom. Okay, probably a little bit purple for my liking. Number 8, let's check that out. There we go, it's loaded. Ooh, I do like the look of this quite a lot. Let's just have a look at a few more. Number 7, probably a little bit too washed out. And what about number 6? Ooh, number 6 is nice as well, but I'm probably gonna roll with number 8. The idea here, and the reason why there are quite a few conversion LUTs, is because you're gonna be shooting in so many different environments, different white balances, different exposures, different weather conditions, different lighting conditions, you name it. And there always should be a conversion LUT that is going to be able to take your footage from log to a really nice base edit. And that's exactly what we've got here. So conversion LUT number 8 just happens to work for me. And like I said before, you can go and check these conversion LUTs out down below. A pack of 10, $5, they're yours. All right, so with that being said, this clip is more or less color graded. There's probably just a few little things I want to do. I would look at decreasing the shadows just a little bit. And by the way, I'm not sure if you guys ever played around with log footage. Maybe it's just Premiere Pro, I'm not sure, but log footage from the iPhone inside of a color grading platform like this, I find that there's a lot of banding when I'm making adjustments. As you can see here, everything looks really good. And then when I reduce, let's say the shadows, like look at the sky, it goes crazy. And then when I release, it cleans up. Don't know why that's happening. Would love to know if that's happening to you as well. But we've just dropped the shadows there slightly to add a little bit more contrast into our shot. There's quite a lot of green and blue going on in this image as well. As you can see, it was a completely blue sky day, so understandably so. But I might want to look at backing that off just a little bit. So putting a little dot just outside of the greens and just outside of the blues here. Just going to drop the saturation of both of those colors right there. And then I'll make my way down to the vignette tool and just add a slight vignette to kind of clean up those corners a touch. And then I would say this clip is more or less color graded. Within a matter of a few clicks, we've gone from this to this, which is pretty cool in my opinion. If anything, maybe just slightly increasing the temperature. That didn't do all that much, but if we increase this too much, the colors are just gonna get a little bit weird. So I do like the cool vibe, maybe increasing it just a little bit more might take that blue edge off things just a touch. But there we go, we've color graded our clip a little before and after once again, before and after. Like I said before, if you wanna check out those conversion LUTs down below, $5, oh, $5, and they are yours. But guys, that is gonna wrap up today's video. You have now got the best video settings you can use on your iPhone 16 Pro Max, and you now understand how you can color grade the log footage coming out of the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max as well. But guys, if you're new around here, a subscribe would mean the absolute world. And of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.